You know, the gut rebuild is the most difficult housing you'll ever do, but it's the most promising and lucrative, which means you have more margin to play with, to sell it at a lower price, to rent it at a lower price. As you'll see later in this presentation, as I break down this actual house that I'm actually turning into a rental. But there's some things you have to understand when it concerns a gut rebuild, and I cannot reiterate this. And a lot of you, most of you, I would say, are in cities that are going to acquire older homes that have been vacant, that have been abandoned for years. And even if it had been abandoned for years, it's foreclosed on and it's distressed. I cannot reiterate this. The number one rule when building a when you're going to approach a gut rebuild, you must, I repeat, you must stabilize the house from water. That water is the single most damaging, not fire, not your kids, not a bunch of teenagers throwing rocks. It's water, not wind. Water is the single most destructive force to a house. And then that causes mold. And I'm telling you, once mold gets behind the wall, like this house you're going to see, you have to basically gut it, stabilize it not only from water, but stabilize it from disease, because we don't want to build housing and hurt these children and families that we're going to house in them, right? So with that being said, I'm going to introduce the GC, Sergio, my sidekick, Sergio, and then he's going to introduce the roofer, who he is, a little background on him, and then we're going to take the tour to show you this beautiful house, but the damage, and by the way, excuse the noise in the background. We're actually doing the stabilizing the roof as we speak, and we're actually demolishing the interior as we speak, and we'll show you that in the tour and show you how we're going to change this house a little bit to make it more attractive. By the way, this house, which is beautiful, is going to be rented to either like a fireman, a low moderate income fireman, a teacher, a nurse. It's ultimately, it's going to be a low moderate income family that we're going to help from our community. So as you'll see in the pictures that I'm going to show in the presentation, it's an incredible house with great potential, both from a spiritual standpoint for a family, but also from a financial standpoint on your balance sheet. With that being said.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sergio Maranto, PA Construction of Tampa. Been a contractor in Tampa for 25 years. Most of you remember me from last week. So with that being said, I'm going to give it to Paul. Paul is our roofer.
Hello, my name is Paul Gallagher. I'm with Roofing Solutions of Tampa. This is probably about the 15th to 20th job I've done with Sergio. Probably about half or more of those were with Al. And for us, this is what we do every day.
Thank you, Paul. Now, Paul is, you're going to see some pictures later on, in the presentation where Paul has done a great job on some of our gut rebuilds. And actually, I know my old mentor from Teleco, the largest CDC in the history of the country out of Los Angeles, as far as vice president of development, he used to tell me something, I know what I know what I don't know. When I don't know something, I bring the best and I get out of the way. Paul's the best at what he does, and I get out of the way. So, but I also expect, like you should expect, when you're dealing with your subcontractors, it's their job as an expert to tell you how to best utilize and minimize, damage or future damage from your asset or that house you're building. Okay. With that being said, please hold on a second. We're going to switch over equipment as we do this tour, but I think you'll be happy what you see. All right, so we're going to switch over that to Mevo. We'll take this off. Like this here. All right. We're going to go. By the way, folks, look at this. Nice for a family, right? No low moderate income family is going to love this. Sorry, Dina. Sorry. All right, we're going to go outside, folks. There's some work being done here. We're starting to demolish the interior. Watch out for nails. action going on here, folks, but it's good action. Not only for a future family, but also for your financial and balance sheet, whether it's a rental or whether it's for sale. You can see, now you guys can stand right there because I'm going to interview you. So you can see the roof here is being done. So Paul, when you first inspected this house, what were your thoughts on what needed to be done to the house and some of the damage you saw, and now what you're doing to mediate those risks to the house?
The biggest concern was the chimney. You'll see that when we walk around to the side of the house. There's some issue going on with the flashing and the stucco. And then looking at all the roof-to-wall junctions, the stucco has been chipped away, it appears, where all the roof-to-wall flashings are. Anywhere a roof meets a wall, there's a metal detail that goes up behind the stucco and underneath the material of the roof. And so we got to address all those issues, each one at a time. The home originally, we believe, had a tile roof, and that's why it has these situations going on.
Sergio, any thoughts on that on the roof?
I agree. He's the one who came out and did the inspection when we first came out here. I looked at the chimney and noticed a lot of cracks in the chimney. So I think we're gonna have issues with it, but we'll knock it out.
We'll know a lot more when we tear it apart.
Yeah, exactly, which we're going to go to right now, folks. We're going to go to what we thought is the single most biggest issue of this house for water intrusion. And remember, water, it's great to swim in, but it's horrible for a house. By the way, look at this neighborhood. Great neighborhood, low moderate income family who's living here soon. You can see we're tearing up not only the roofing, but a big problem with this house, folks, as you're going to see in the presentation, major problem was the gutters. Most homes, the gutters are placed in wrong. We're going to show you how to properly put in gutters to protect the foundation from future damage underneath the house. So folks, look at this. This is a major issue right here. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that, Sergio and Randy, and how you're going to fix this?
Well, we're gonna cut the stucco around the chimney, around the bottom where the flashing is. Cut it up about a foot,
About 8 to 10 inches.
10 inches. Yeah, 10 inches up. See expose the framing behind it and see if there's any how much damage is in the actual framing itself.
Yeah, so this is a major issue. We're gonna, like you said, we're gonna have to completely gut that open, like a surgery, put it open and then gut it, and then rebuild it to really assess or take care of this major water intrusion. And look at this here, so you can see. What do you think about that, Rand?
That's the roof to wall junction I was referring to. And so the original tile roof, the tile has a higher profile than the shingle does. And so when we replaced the roof from a tile roof to a shingle roof, they never did any of the stucco work. So all that flashing is exposed. There's nothing wrong with it, but it needs to be covered because the stucco is actually the counter flashing that keeps the water from coming in through the wall. The shingles keep it from coming in through the roof.
You got it. So you can see, as you're looking at these houses, in other words, folks, a lot of this may go over your head. Hire an expert roofer to, take care of your, the roof when you're rebuilding, start to do the gut rebuild. If you don't do it correctly at the beginning, it's going to cost so much more money to fix a bad job. There's a person on this call that actually we saw that somebody did a major screw up on a roof, particularly a flat roof. The flat roof is the most single difficult roof to fix. And you're going to see actually in the presentation a flat roof where I actually had to come in and destroy or demolish everything but the walls because of the flat roof. It was not fixed correctly. Oh, quiet, lunch break. So you can see, as we go in this house, you can see just, right now, the good news is you can see from the subroof or in other words, the plywood, everything, it looks good. We actually expected more damage than what we see, which is really good news, especially to our pocketbooks. You can see mold all around.
you know, and we'll get into why that mold and how do you mitigate the roof, the mold issue. By the way, this is, you're gonna see some of the mold and some of this, you can see here, this is how the house was. Basically, they were trying to find the mold issue. You can see mold, right? Mold. See, they started to tear this place up. You know, we just started, but this place was pretty much tore up before when we purchased it, because they were trying to find the water intrusion. By the way, when we're going to take out this whole wall here, if we're going to gut rebuild, remember, gut rebuild allows you an opportunity to rebuild it the way you think is going to be more advantageous from the value standpoint. You know, so this house will be completely gutted when we're done. This kitchen, you know, look at, there was major water intrusion. This is how we bought it, just like this. This was major water intrusion in this area. You can see the mold down there. And here's where, you know, real again, beautiful room. This is like where the heart is. This is right here, believe it or not. When we're done, when we gut this, we're going to be able to see everything that's wrong or the primary problem, but we can't see it right now until it's completely and utterly gutted. But remember, stabilize the house by putting your roof first and foremost before you can even start to find a problem. And once we do that, we're going to open it up, and then we're going to actually, you know, actually create water and rain ourselves. We're going to be able to really see where the water, all the water is coming in throughout the entire house. You can see it, you know, all this mold and water intrusion all the way through here. A beautiful view, right? So look at the mold. Look at all this mold here. Mold is your enemy. Remember, mold is your enemy. This is, you know, you can see even the mold. By the way, look at this craziness here. This was, right, guys? This was built wrong here.
This is the craziest screen page I've ever seen.
It was crazy, nuts. So we're still trying to figure out a solution, but we'll find a solution. Remember, when you're going to a gut rebuild, you look why did it get to where it was, and that it's your job with your experts like I have here to find a solution. This is a major one here that we've got to fix. We quite haven't, we're figuring out now how to mediate, you know, the way this cage was built incorrectly in this corner of the house.
Folks, that was quite a tour. I hope you learned, you saw a little bit, and now it's going to make you're going to be able to kind of see and connect the dots once I get into the presentation. But with that being said, let me. I want to see if Paul's got any parting words for us and advice to these builders and wannabe builders on the call.
One of the key things that you need to make sure of, if you're ever having to replace any of those wall flashings we talked about, where the roof meets the wall, is that you don't let them penetrate that wall flashing within about 2 to 3 inches of the crease in the L. Okay, because if you do, the water's just going to pour in. You'll never find it because the leak will actually be behind the stucco. So it's crucial that you tell your general contractor that they have to bring the stucco stop, which is where they stop the stucco at the bottom where it meets the shingles, up high enough so that you're not putting nail holes in there. And if the flashing is in any way compromised, you see surface rust on it, replace it, because that roof's got to stay up there for 20 years. And if it's already starting to rust, it's not going to last 20 years.
Well, listen, we're going to get ready to go to the presentation. We'll say goodbye to Paul, but before we do, Paul, thank you. Listen, he's good at what he does. And again, as we get into more of the subcontractors in your construction infrastructure, you've got so many of our folks hire their friends or people that know, hire the best, and somebody at least, and also make sure they're cost effective. But I want to thank you, Paul. You've been doing a great job for us in all those houses you've done, and especially Creekwood, which we're going to go into. Thanks a lot for your great work. All right, Paul from Roofing Solutions, great person, great company. All right, we're going to now get into that. We're going to keep. All right, we got a break in about 10 minutes in the presentation, so hold on. So we can now at that point take questions. Okay. All right. Share. Robin, can you see the screen?
Yeah, it shows.
All right, folks. This is Housing Pros. Again, we're the gut and rebuild housing, the most lucrative, but the single most difficult. There's a little saying in gut rebuilds. It's not a matter of if you're going to find a surprise in the gut rebuild. It's a matter of how much it's going to cost you. And you're going to see a surprise that we didn't expect in one of the houses, gut rebuilds I did, $43,000 for the foundation. And we'll get a little bit in that. Remember, the roof and then the foundation, the roof, the foundation, the roof, the foundation. You already met Sergio. Now they're going to rebuild this. We're going to go. This is 5912 Dawson Ridge Road. This is, as you're going to see why we did. I'm going to actually get into the economics of this house and the gut rebuild to show you how I approach a house, a property, a gut rebuild, and even analyze, do we demolish it or gut rebuild it, and what are the economics of it? Now, I know some of you saw this last week, but I'm gonna keep on going over this, folks. Economics. I'm gonna keep on going over this. Every single training, we're gonna start it out with. You've got to think about the economics. Everything and each of your decisions, whether it's to hire somebody, to pay for a service, to buy a house. Remember, maximization and utilization of scarce resources, time, money, and demand being the scarcest. And that all goes into, and you integrate that into opportunity cost. What that basically means is you have 5 homes to choose from, but you only have enough capital and time for 2 of those. How do you then factor out which of those 2 homes, which we're going to start getting into not only in this session? Remember, this is just going to cover phase 1, the first part of the gut rebuild, because a gut rebuild deserves about 3 sessions just to better understand how to rebuild that home and gut to rebuild it. Again, we're using what I call my market-based, profit-oriented model. It teaches you how to increase home values in the LMI community. Remember that the market determines the scope of your program, not your board member, not even yourself, the market. Too many times your board or boards with those nonprofits and people who have never built a house. Think about how the hell can you allow people who haven't even built a house to dictate the house? I won't. That's a whole session itself. I don't want to get angry, but we're going to get into boards even later on in the sessions. Utilize market for land and property. Utilize the market. Don't utilize, again, your board member or your director of even yourself. The market. Do the same for your construction strategies and sales strategies. Let them on even your price points. The market. The market. The market. Outside, and remember, the key to our model, I don't use a penny of government money. The key to the model is you're going to be looking at outside opportunities. Like Dawson is outside our target area, but you're going to see why. And you're going to integrate that for either profit, to increase profit back to your P&L, or it's going to bring equity back to your balance sheet like this one will do for us, which we'll show you later on. The Robin Hood model. Remember, Robin Hood, steal from the rich, give back to the poor. It's been done to us so many times. Now it's time for us to return the favor. Remember, the Robin Hood model is blending profits with high-income housing into your affordable housing program. Blending profits with high-income housing into your affordable housing program. Well, speaking of gut rebuilds, I wanted to show you a few examples. Here's this is a house we have actually going on now in Orlando. This is how it looked, but it's a flat roof. It's the one I told you about, a flat roof. The most flat roof is like the devil of all devils when it concerns, problems with distressed homes. You're going to see why, and you're going to see why I chose this one. And actually, we're going to turn it into a rental. Has a pool in the back, but look at the inside when we bought it. This is water damage, all water damage. But look at that view, right? Skyline of Orlando, right on the lake. That was so bad that we're having, we basically, one of the gut rebuilds that we're getting into later is you tear everything down except for the walls. And that allows you to buy step new construction, which is going to be actually more cost effective a lot of times. You can see basically that house turned into this. Now we're rebuilding it, just those walls. And here's kind of what it looks like today. And we're almost done. You know, it's got sheathing, so we're going to get ready to enclose it and start the easiest part of the job, actually. This is a house that we have already, again, in construction, gut rebuild. Sergio did it. Oh, Sergio is like a maestro on this one. Here's what it looks like before. Not that great looking. You can see it was even, they built this addition. Obviously, it wasn't done to code, and they did it legal addition. The bathroom was tiny. It was 1 bedroom, by the way, 1 bedroom, 1 bath house, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And when you do a gut rebuild, that's use that gut rebuild as a time to change the interface of and the exterior face of the house. Most of the time I use a gut rebuild, I always expand it because that adds value to the house. We're turning this one into a 1-1 to a 3-2. You can see that kitchen. This is the master bedroom, the only bedroom. This is what, you know, this is a little, and you, by the way, folks, this here was done wrong. They built this addition and they built the roof, right, sloping in.
Yeah, backwards.
Backwards.
Reverse the pitch.
Reverse the pitch. Oh, idiots. But this is why we bought that. Look at this. Look at that backyard. Okay, this is, remember, we redid the roof because it had leaking problems. Major leaking problems. So we rebuilt the roof and subroof. And then we knew we were going to do something with that, the fascia, the face of the house. And so we decided to put hardy board, and you're going to see why, to change what it looks like. And by the way, remember, when you're doing gut rebuilds, remember what I told you before, you always replace the, if not, this house is, you're going to see a newer house, so we don't need to replace the plumbing and the electrical, but most of, if it's not, you know, if it's a 20-year-old house plus, you're going to have to change that plumbing, not only inside the house, but underground. This house, we actually had to take it underneath 600 yards to the street. Yep. Underground. This is the people putting in new underground plumbing just for the water for our house. That's like the actual plumbing. This is the gutting of the house. Now we're starting to rebuild it. You can see, you know, oh, by the way, see this here? You're going to see how we had to now level this off and make that into a separate bedroom. You can see here, that's the plumbing we did under the ground. Now we're starting to rebuild. Now these are the new bedrooms. We've expanded the house, and now we're turning it into the 3-2. Now, by the way, you're going to see now as you see here, this is the back sunroom. So you can see how we're leveling this out. And by the way, we rebuilt this completely. You can see we actually increased the height of it, and now we have it pitching back toward the yard instead of toward the house. You can see the addition here. We to increase the size of the house. This is actually now with the addition. The trusses are on. Look at what it looks like now. The front. Remember, I told you why we did what we did. This is, remember again. This is what it looks like. It used to look like. This is what it looks like now. This is now the inside. It's about 90% done, 85% done. That's the master bedroom. It's got a sunroom. It's going to have French doors to the water. Bathrooms, remember, bathrooms, when you rebuild and go rebuild, remember this, to add value, kitchens and bathrooms, and a large walk-in closet, which this has. Put a large walk-in closet when you're rebuilding, because remember, a gut rebuild allows you an opportunity to completely change what that house looks like inside. Kitchens and bathrooms and large walk-in closet in the master. Now we're starting to grade the house. As you saw before, that's what it looks like before. This is what it looks like now. See the grading? As you see the grading, this is very important to learn, right? The grading is pitching down to the water.
That's everything.
Right?
It's everything. Yeah, you have to pitch it away from the house. Always.
Yeah.
Or you'll have issues with your foundation.
Yeah, most people don't understand how important the grading is. Again, look at that beautiful water there. Creekwood, this is a house. Remember, every gut rebuilds, especially those in cities like Baltimore, Detroit, Pittsburgh, wherever you're at, you're going to get a hold of housing, and especially, free distressed housing. It looks crappy, but all of it, any ugly duckling. I've gotten houses that were horrible, but we turned it into a beautiful swan. Look at this house. Look how bad it looks. And by the way, Paul did that roof. You're gonna see later in this one, he really, this house was, oh my God, look at that kitchen. And imagine, and this roof, look, first thing we did, like in this house, we raised the kitchen roof, ceiling rather. Look at that pool. It was a jungle up there. There was actually a couch in the front yard in this jungle. Now look at it, finished. And you're gonna notice finishes we'll talk about a little bit later. Remember that kitchen? We raised the roof ceiling here. We took, and as you can see, you're gonna look, you're saying, well, they all look like, yeah. We remember institutionalize and standardize your interior finishes to reduce your cost. Now look at what this house looks like versus before. There goes our walk-in. Remember I told you before, big walk-in closets, bathrooms. Look at that pool now. Look at that. All right. I think I got real quick. This is one we did here. Now this was in a flood zone. Some of you are going to have houses in flood zones, and bear with me, folks. I just want to give some examples so you understand as we get more into the weeds. This was in a flood zone. Flood zone has a rule. You can only rebuild up to 50% of the depreciated value, and which means that this house was valued at 120,000, which means we can only put 100 or 60 or 80,000. So we had to cut it in 2 stages. We rebuilt it, but we knew we had to expand the house. This was a 2-1, and we turned it into a 3-2 with a den and built-in laundry room. And so we had to, because of that restriction, we had to basically cut it in 2. We did the first phase, but we prepped the house for phase 2 that allowed us to then we doubled the value of the house on phase 1. Then we went back and got another permit, and we were able to build, as you're going to see, and rebuild this house. You can see we opened this all up. This turned into the master bedroom. Remember, this is the gutted. Now we're rebuilding it. You can see all that bad wood. You see that bad wood? Don't be cheap. And remember, we're taking pictures of all this. So you're going to see how this all adds. I've got a ton of pictures, but we give those pictures to both the appraiser and to the buyer. And I even give them and show the renter so they feel safe. The buyer renter feels safe, but the appraiser, it will always significantly increase your appraiser versus the comp value. This is, I'm showing you some, look at, this is what it looked like before. Look at, we changed the face, and you see the door different. It was because of the expansion. Look at before, now, after. Look at that backyard before, backyard after. Now, the reason I got this is phase 2 here, right here where you see the mouse. This is where we had to expand the house. This is the addition. We had to frame it, bring in trusses, open it up, blah, blah, blah. So now you see we opened it up. In phase 2, you start to build it out. Now here's what it looks like now. The laundry room in the back, a separate laundry room. This is, it's a dining room that's connected to the kitchen. Look at the open space. Now, and I put this in, we could rent for $2,800 a month in South Tampa, one of the most sought after areas. And we rented it to this single mom. She has 1 child, 2 children, and we rented it for $1,400 a month instead of $20, a 50% reduction in rent. Because that equity I doubled the equity value of the house through this building. This one here is an older house. A lot of you are going to get older. The reason I'm doing this one, you're going to see, look at this. We're going to tear off this wall, open it up. You always open it up, but you're going to see how when you got rebuild it, this gives you an opportunity to get to the subfloor, to get to the plumbing, electrical, particularly the plumbing, and to the joists, right? To build out, what you say, you always build out the joists and the
Always. Yeah, that's the bones of the house, the structure, the bottom of the house, the whole support
You got
system. Yeah,
and you got to build it out new, right?
always.
Yep.
Yeah.
And remember, that's going to add value. You're going to make cost you 40,000, but you're going to add 80,000 of value to it. This shows you a little bit of, you can see where the wood here, and we're placing that. This, you can see some of the new wood, the plumbing coming in, which we changed it from lead to PVC, the plumbing. Now look at the subfloor. The joists. Now we're putting new plywood. Also, don't forget, if you're going to, in the gut rebuilds, new HVAC system, that includes That includes the piping, all the venting, all right? Don't be cheap, the venting. But remember, those pictures, you give to the appraiser. Now, here's what it looks like, finished. The kitchen, the house. So we sold this one to a single mom at 30% reduced value. This is the last one. I just want to show you some general flum, and we'll get real. I just want to show you kind of, again, this one, we turned it from a 2-1 to a 3-2. You can see, it looks like crap, basically. And you're going to see kind of, I'll go through it quick so you can kind of see how, we gutted it. We put in new plumbing, electrical, started replace all the wood. By the way, this is even underground. We had to bore and take out the cement to put in the new PVC in this room and throughout the whole house. Electrical, again, we had to get down, underneath the cement. Now here's what it looks like. Sold this to a retired teacher and her partner at about 40% reduction. Because these gut rebuilds, the nice thing is that you can buy them cheap and there's a lot more wiggle room in it. All right. You're going to do gut rebuild versus the demolition and new construction. The financial analysis really which is the foundation. I'm going to show you how to determine how I go about determining the value of a house. Remember, Zillow, I go to Zillow, but location. Gut rebuild will have a higher comp value. Remember, a gut rebuild, you should be able, when you're done, if the comp value is 200, you should be around 270 for that gut rebuild. But again, take pictures of every phase, and then you're going to show those pictures. I like to put those pictures up on a storyboard and put them in the living room so an appraiser can't miss them. Okay, we're gonna go to acquisition, the sales cost, and some of this stuff is not gonna be for this session, but later on. Remember, roof, we showed you the roof. What about the foundation, folks? Foundation. It's this, we missed this foundation on this house. We missed the foundation to really, once we, remember, this was covered by wood. So we missed it, and this was a $43,000 surprise for us. Remember, all this isn't showing yourself, but, and this was actually the single most difficult foundation that I've ever had to do. We had to actually build it, step by step, because, so the house did not fall over. But you're going to start to see how, and once you can do that, you go into inside the house, you completely demolish the floor so you can get underneath that house to rebuild it correctly. You can see everything. This showed us the disease, just like I was saying before. When you open it up, you can see where the disease of the house on the foundation is. You can see, here goes, you can see all this is new, including the footers. And you're going to see the joists are new. We actually put in new additional footers and joists, which again adds value to the house. You can see all that new wood. I love that, new wood look. And this shows you, we're, plumbing, you can see the PVC we're putting in. Rome, again, remember, the other piece is the plumbing. Don't be cheap. Put your plumbing underneath, not only change of lead and copper and any other type of metal plumbing, change it to PVC underneath the ground. And I also do to the street, as you saw earlier, but also to the sewer system. This shows you Sergio did. You can see how we put in. By the way, this here is the new water plumbing going all the way to the street 600 yards away. You can see we actually put in new plumbing inside underneath, and also this is for the sewer. We had to actually put it all the way to the here the city had the sewer main line. There were new main lines going along the river. So we had to bore holes and put all new sewer lines all the way toward the back of the house on the river. Now, Dawson analysis. You saw, let me give you a picture of a few pictures here, folks. Look at this neighborhood before we get into the analytics. Nice neighborhood, right? Beautiful. This is the street, the actual street. This is the house. You can see, you saw in the tour, this is what it looked like. You're starting to see, look at those cracks on the sidewalk. When you see that, that isn't a sinkhole. That's telling me that there's a lot of water damage underneath the cement, which is never good. And that's because of the drainage system, which we'll show you. Not only the drainage system on the roof, but actually leaving the roof. And by the way, that's not new grass. That's all weeds. It looks like grass. It's weeds. You can see in the side of the house, when we started to take a tour, this is a bad sign. You see where these gutters are here? We're going to show you, you don't do that. We're going to show you how we do all our houses. We take the water away from the house and away from the driveway. That causes so much damage. As you see, all that mold. See, when you see that mold, that's a bad drainage system. You can see here, all the mold here. Look at this, right? I mean, when we saw that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that was the first sign. That was the first sign we had. Look at that drain system there. That's not, remember, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad right here. Bad. But what do we do? I included some, this isn't this house, but I included some pictures of some of our houses and how we do what we do. We extend the water exit, the flow of the gutter. We actually put an addition onto the gutter that the gutter company does. And here we can actually see, we even did it underneath the sidewalk to down toward the street. Again, away from the house. And by the way, I keep these pictures. Why? Adds value to when the appraiser sees this. And also that this, many of these houses we sell, the owners love it. This adds value because that foundation, after 20 years of water going on the side of the house, it will start to resettle. And that's when you're going to start to see actual cracks in the house. And that means there's cracks underneath that flooring, which is never good. Again, away from the house. This is this house. I decided just to show you some of the pictures in case you missed it. Just you can see all this house. This is before we started today. Today is the first day of construction. Mold, not good. This house, the reason you see it, they basically they took away a lot of the drywall. They were trying to find the problem and where the leaks were, but there's only one way to do that. Right, Sergio? Only one way to do that. Gut it.
Got it. That's the only way to find them, yeah.
And we're starting to gut it right now. All right, to purchase or to not purchase. It sounds like a little bit of a Shakespeare there, right? To purchase or not purchase. Let me go to how I analyze this house or any house I do. First off, I take a look at the area. This will take a little bit. This is Tampa Palms. You can see here, nice area. I said, okay, nice area. Look at this. This is the actual community. This belongs to an HOA, very exclusive. Well, okay, very exclusive area. Obviously most of the houses you buy, but remember, aren't going to be in these type of areas, but you will get opportunities with the Robinhood model to get houses in these areas. And you got to ask yourself, rental or sale, which will show you what we did. Now, what I did was start to look at houses around here. This is Dawson, this house. I go into Zillow's, you have a service, there's actual service that can provide you the comp values. But I don't like that service because why? I want to actually get to know the neighborhood of a house I'm buying, regardless of where it's at. And I found out Zillow, believe it or not, has the best information on. It shows you not only where the house is, it gives you an overview, it gives you information on the house, but it also starts to show you other houses like right here that are for sale. And it shows you houses that have been sold, so you can kind of get a feel of the cost per square foot. But I also then go into those houses and take a look at those houses to get a feel of what the comp values are. And here's a house that's pending right now as we speak, just down the street, down the block, that's a little bit bigger, but it's selling for $570. And remember, this house is dated. If you look at it, it may look new, but it's dated. Look how old it is, and sell it for $570. When I see a house so when you're looking at a house and you're looking at what's for sale around that house, or that neighborhood, that area, take a look at the pictures, find pictures of that house that sold or is for sale, and look at the interior. And you're going to see, and it's going to give you, remember, a better feel of how to price it out. Because remember, you're gutting it, it's going to be like a new house. So you're going to add, that 570 will definitely go up after we're done. Then what I do is I go to, there's a, where you can get census tract information. What I do here, you know, what you do, I'll go through an example right here. You ask for 2021, 15,912. Dawson Ridge Drive, Tampa. All right, do a search, and it gives me that this is the census tract you see here. But this is, to me, the most important part, the census demographic. Tells me the tract, this is an upper income. I go, And I looked at it, I said, upper income. This is when I started to look and I started to feel, I think instead of selling it to another rich family, yes, I get to bring in, profit to my program that allows me to lower rents, give away things to low moderate families. But how many times does a Black or Latino low moderate family have an opportunity to live in a neighborhood like this? And so when I saw this upper income and look at the average income, 154, I said, all right, that started to change my mind. And this is when I started to really go and determine I was going to turn this into a rental property to give an LMI family an opportunity to go to the best schools, live in a beautiful neighborhood with all those services. This here shows you a little bit about the actual housing in the area. All this stuff, I won't go into detail, but this is stuff that you need to look at. And then what I do, remember the general comp value estimate, post and gut rebuild, gut and rebuild, it will always, your gut and rebuild will always appraise higher. But it's those pictures and the depth of your rebuild that will determine how high. So remember, new roof, new subroof, change that plumbing underneath that ground and inside the house, turn it all to PVC. It's going to create longevity to the life of that house. But also, I like to change the plumbing on these older houses. This one doesn't need it because it's a newer house, but the older houses, 50 years, 40 years plus, will change the sewer and the water to the street. Now, the market, with everything that I saw, here's what I determined. The value when we're done, it will be 530,000, but because all this research, some of which I showed you, the value in 3 years will be about 650. Our purchase price was $295 from Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae has a great program that you can access foreclosures before anyone else. It's called Community First. And a nonprofit or affordable housing developer, you can qualify to become a member, like I am, of that program. So I'm estimating around 92,000. That does not include, by the way, when we're done, my total cost is around 387. Doesn't include soft costs. That's important. Doesn't include soft costs, but that kind of gauges my main number. Since I look at the number 387 versus 530, there's enough equity. I said, great, there's enough equity in there for me to turn this into rental. The comp rental rate in this area is 3,100. And by the way, there's only one home for rent in this entire 5-mile area, Tampa Palms. Only one, soon to be two. Equity position allowing me to do, like I said, a monthly rental. We're gonna either rent this at 1,900 or 2,000, but it's going to be to a Black or Latino veteran. It's going to be a nurse, a teacher, or any LMI family. So that's exciting. The total return. Now I'm taking that 3-year number. It's going to be basically with 650 net. There's a and with rental income minus the cost, your rental cost, $323,000 gross profit. What this also tells me, the family that we place in this house, we're going to put them on a program to become a home buyer within 3 years. And I'll work with one of the home buyer financial literacy home buyer organizations. Like, I see with Dina and her, she does a great job over in Detroit. All right, we're gonna stop here for a second and we can open it up, before we go on to a little bit more of the detail, if there's any questions and discussion from the group. Robin?
Well, I have some questions from people that sent in the chat. You want me to go over those before I unmute so we can, since they were
Yeah,
sending.
yeah, go and unmute it and then you could, and we can, and then give me the questions in case somebody has
Okay.
any.
No problem. So one of the first questions is about gut rebuild versus purchase. On the house that you almost completely demolished, does the city consider it a new construction because it was substantially demolished?
No, that's a good question. This is something I learned, and remember, new construction is going to take, because, it's taking us on new construction with trusses. Now, by the way, on new construction, don't do trusses, build rafters, because trusses are taking anywhere from 3 to 5 months to get. Remember, time is money, maximization, utilization of scarce resources. So what I've learned, what we did was, and we've done in a couple, no, actually, I've done 4 of these where technically, if you leave up like 3 of the walls, if you, not all of, you don't have to leave them all, but you leave up I think it was 3 walls, and all they just, as you saw in that one picture, we just left the actual wall. Then what we were able to do is get the plans, right, put together plans on rebuilding it, and it qualified, believe it or not, as a rehab, a rebuild, not a new construction. And with that, there was a lot, we didn't have to worry on a great deal of other things that we needed to be done. And by the way, more costly. So I like to do, when I'm able to do that, I like to do that. But sometimes on a new construction, when we, on those houses, I didn't see enough benefit on the cost to demolish it. And I think I have an example where there was no later where if there was no benefit. And so I just demolished and built a new construction. So no, that house that you saw qualified as a rebuild, not new construction.
Okay. And along the same lines, when you do a gut rebuild, is it considered a new construction when it's appraised?
No, it's always, remember, and it's not going to, but that's kind of I see where they're going. A new construction is new construction. And a new construction, by the way, folks, you're going to see a little bit, I always want to do construction because they always not only appraise higher, but it adds value, comp values to the houses surrounding homes. So, and but a lot of neighborhoods that you're going to build in, it just doesn't economically, the numbers don't add up. But no, when the appraiser looks at it, it's going to be a gut rebuild. Remember, the appraiser is not going to look at a gut rebuild. They don't know. And think about it. Without pictures, how did the appraiser know you just didn't go in there and paint it and put in new flooring and new cabinets? They don't. But when the appraiser sees all that I showed you, he or she intellectually and emotionally treats that house as new construction. So completely change the way they appraise. I have never, ever done one gut rebuild where I did not get at least a 30% bump in the comp value because of the depth that we showed the appraiser we did. Now, remember, again, take pictures and either send those pictures in a PDF to the appraiser. What I like to do, I actually put the pictures on a storyboard and I put them right in the living room where when they open the door, you cannot miss it.
Moving on to construction, was there any settling of the foundation due to the water from the roof due to seepage or ponding at footings?
No. Actually, this one we got lucky on that we didn't have any issues with settling on this foundation.
Yeah, and that's a good question. And that's why we got lucky. But a lot of houses you buy that are old, 40, 50 years old, you're going to have to actually, I've actually bought homes, gut and rebuild, where I had to actually hire a foundation company to go in underneath and stabilize the foundation. If it wasn't we're going to actually there's 2 types of foundation. It's going to be cement or it's going to be wood, right? We're going to do in 2 more sessions, we're actually going to go to a wood gut and rebuild that we're expanding, where we actually don't have, there's not foundation issue. There are foundation issues, but they're wood and the house is raised. So that's much easier. But when a house isn't raised, No, it's going to cost you about anywhere from 15,000 to 30,000 to stabilize the foundation.
All right, and that moves on to one of the foundation questions, the issue that you had that cost 43,000. Someone asked how much time did that
Oh.
might take you?
Oh my God. Great, great question. Folks, like, in that house, you know, I'm going to tell you a little story on that house that I showed you. That 43, first off, that took us 3 months to rebuild because we had to do it one section at a time. No, it was about 2.5 months. That's a lot of time. Remember, maximization and utilization of scarce resources. Time is money, not only because remember, you only have so much money. And that makes a difference if you can build 10 houses a year or 14 houses a year based on time. That house, I didn't expect that 43,000. And I had to add that to the cost. And that actually kept me from selling it. I had it was so great. I had this young Black couple with 3 children come in, and, you know, the children running around. They loved it. Mommy, this is my room. But I knew I could not cut. Now today I would be able to cut the price, but that house, it was at the beginning. So I couldn't afford to cut any price. But yeah, time is money, and that foundation will take time to rebuild, particularly whether it's a cement or wood. It's going to take, you know, anywhere from a month to 2.5 months to rebuild.
All right. Another construction question, and sidebar, if anyone has any follow-up to the questions, another question, feel free to unmute yourself and share your insights on that, or again, follow-up question. Al, your next question, did you say that you replace all of the floor jolts in the house when you do a gut rebuild?
Yes, absolutely. Most of these, believe me, if it's at a point where the foundation is bad, it all needs to be replaced. But again, it makes it almost a new house, or like a new house. Basically, it's a new house, everything but the age of when it was officially built. So yes, you replace all of it, 100%, 100%. It's much cheaper doing it during the gutting than after the gutting. Think about it. All of a sudden, when the joist goes bad, and you got to basically tear up the floor and subfloor to get to the joist. So yes, all of it. And we'll take one more question. Remember, we're going to have another break at the end, where we're also folks talk a little bit about capital. One more question, and we'll continue the presentation.
All right, last question. Sorry if it gets missed, but you'll have another chance. This is kind of reiteration. Please explain the math and how you were able to increase value and reduce rent.
Well, you know, the main, when you're looking at a rental, and by the way, this presentation will be able to is available. You know, ask Robin to put it in the chat so you can download it. There's 2 keys to rental, particularly if you're doing it on with not a big operation. The cost of capital. I get 7-year money from Truist and Regions Bank, the 2 best banks in the nation by far. They gave me 7-year interest-only money that allows me to be very flexible. So that's one piece of the equation. The other piece, and this is critical, you've got to hit at least a 25% increase in equity. Remember, because you're going to decrease, you have costs, right? You have building costs, you have insurance costs, you have capital costs. So I want that 25%, bump in the equity. And what I'm getting, by the way, folks, is more like a 37% bump in equity based on how I buy it. In other words, how you buy it, the cost that you buy it, but that cost of capital, cost of capital, your construction costs are going to be really, really critical. And again, time plays a factor because how long it takes you, how many times can I turn that money, and build out. Remember, what I'm doing now is for sale, but now what we're doing with our profits, we're taking the profits and buying rentals cash. So again, the equity position post construction is the most critical to be able to get that rental rate reduced, and it still looks attractive on your balance sheet and your P&L. All right, I'm going to go, and by the way, we'll follow up, with more detail at the end, but also for those who want more detail, I'll provide, they feel more than willing to to email me directly. All right. All right, stage two, this is preparing the gutter rebuild to maximize the appraisal. Remember, this is the stage. Remember, we're only going over the initial stages because the gutter rebuild is so complex. We thought it was Sergio and I, we got a couple of houses we're gonna go to that are gonna be fabulous that show that really are more true gut rebuilds than this, where we're replacing all plumbing, all electrical, expanding the house, tearing up the foundation. So remember, you're going to get your scope of work. You're going to get with Sergio. You're going to base it your GC, and you're going to determine the scope of work. And then you're going to get bids. And then you're going to get your bids. Now, remember, even though I have a current, right, we have our construction team, but once every 2 houses or so, we still get bids.
Oh, absolutely.
We still get bids.
Still get bids, always get bids.
Yeah, we don't go out and say, oh, it's okay. We know you are. Put it in. No, we want your bid. Now, remember, roof and subroof. Then foundation, but roof and subroof are so important. This is actually what Paul actually just finished his house 2 months ago. This shows you a subroof. Remember, this roof had subroof issues. You'll see the damage. And actually, this is what this house is going to look like here. This around this fireplace. This is a fireplace that had a lot of seepage, water seepage. You can see where a lot of this is, again, Paul, I love it, as a roofer, when he finds problems, he just doesn't cover it up like some roofers do. He'll come back to me and go, here's an issue. Here's what I recommend. It's more costly, but we recommend it to, and again, I said, that's great. Take pictures. You can see on this roof, we had a lot of the subroof that needed to be replaced. The sheathing's going down, and here's what the roof looks like finished. You can see that chimney he even encased it, right? Looks completely different. This is a house that you're gonna have some roofs that don't need, that basically it's so damaged, you need to rebuild the entire roof. So, but again, pictures to add value. Remember, subroof, roof, and subroof. I cannot reiterate this. Roof and subroof, then you hit the foundation. But the very first thing you do in a gut rebuild, you stabilize that roof. Water damage will kill that house. Where I did the tour, foundation, then again, you go to the foundation, subfloor. Remember, I showed you examples of the foundation of subfloor, but if you're going to hit the foundation of subfloor, get to the new plumbing and repair whatever is underneath there, make it new, but take pictures. Framing, once you get to the framing part, remember, that's what allowed, then you're putting in, right? You put it in with the frame. What do you do when you're to the framing part of the gut and rebuild?
After the framing part, I mean, you want to get all your electrical run through it. All your piping needs to be run through the actual framing members itself. Then that's when they can do it and drill through. And and then after that, then they basically start their once your inspections are completed, then start your installation. That's an important part in inspections. Any advice on inspection? Because that can really hold up a construction project, right? Yeah, I mean, it depends on your municipality, and how well, if you know your inspectors somewhat, if you're used to dealing with them. I'm used to dealing with a lot of them. They know me. So a lot of times, like when you get to know them, they'll come up, they know it's you, they know that the work's going to be done correctly. So they'll be a lot quicker to respond, and they'll be a lot more passive with you, not aggressive. You got it. And by the way, that brings me to that. I've actually been at one of Sergio's houses, and I saw an inspector here, he was there, came, and he did not even, really inspect. He just said, okay, it looks good. But that's because he trusts them. If you have a GC that doesn't get that response from an inspector, that they trust them, get rid of the GC, because that means they do shoddy work or questionable work. And remember, because that's also the city's butt on the line. This is another house. This is, like Sergio said, we're going to do a training session in this condo, but you can see Sergio just put in the water, and this is on Skyway. Yeah. So you put in the frame, put the new plumbing, new electrical. New electrical, everything new on that one. Remember, don't forget the vent. Don't be cheap. This got rebuilt. You must put in new venting. Because 9 times out of 10 with the ductwork like that, it's insulation. If it ever got wet at one point, there's going to be mold inside that ventilation, and you don't want that blowing out. You know, because if you leave the old stuff, that mold will eventually start working its way into the house, and you're going to have problems.
Yeah, and not only problems from the house from a mechanical standpoint, but listen, it's not right, right? I mean, people get sick from mold, and this is I do guts. I do gut rebuilds. I tear everything up really because first and foremost, I don't want children being harmed from the mold, which will happen. All right. All right. Oh, windows and drywall. We get to the windows and drywall. And by the way, right now, we stop ordering windows from our supplier directly from the manufacturer. What are we doing on windows and why?
We go to Lowe's, and we always have our plans drawn up to stock sizes, which Lowe's carries in stock. Why? Because windows are taking over 26 weeks to get right now from any manufacturer. Most of them are 26 weeks. It's just not worth the wait.
How long does it take to get them from Lowe's?
You get them the same day.
Yeah. Don't ask me why. I mean, of course, we're the little guy, but the same day, and that what is important. This is important. Time, remember time. Time is important. Time is maximization, utilization of scarce resources with time. Bill Gates has no more time than you have every day when he wakes up. All right. So windows, but you have to, if not only if you're having plans drawn up, it needs to have the windows as stock within the sealed plans, right?
Oh yeah. Always have your architect or draftsman, always have them draw them to Lowe's or Depot stock size windows, just stock size windows in general.
Okay. And a got to rebuild, you're going to replace the windows. Finishes, remember, oh my God, standardize your finish. Remember, cost. Don't change your, our people know what to finish. All our people, we right here, we have the same subs, right? Whether it's interior or not finishes, our subs know what to do because it's the same thing every time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, everything's the same. Our flooring is the same. Our finishes, our handles are the same. Everything's color wise is the same. And don't get mismatched with your colors on your, between your cabinets and your faucet and this and that. I mean, try to keep everything uniform together as much as possible.
Yeah. And this picture here, 2 of these pictures is a rebuild. I got to rebuild. You tell me which one. You can't tell, can you? Versus a new construction. Appraisal. I like to control my life. I don't like it to be controlled, including appraisals. Remember, I cannot reiterate this enough. You take pictures of everything and get a Dropbox. I actually have my subs, my roof, everybody takes pictures, and I go to all job sites and I got a camera, buy yourself a camera. I take a ton of pictures of every facet of that gutter rebuild. Then I show those pictures via PDF or on the storyboard to the appraiser. Even this house, I'm still going to get it appraised. We're going to get it appraised. Even the ones that I rent, I appraised. So I can show that value and affirm that value on my balance sheet, but also you're going to get a bump. You're going to be able to sell that house. Particularly, most of you out there are actually going to be doing gutter rebuilds and get homes donated by the city or the state or the county. Those are perfect opportunities. I have not seen, even like in Detroit and Baltimore, I have not seen one gut and rebuild that we cannot increase not only the comp value by 25-30% minimum, but where there's a profit for you. Like in Detroit, I see an average profit of 70,000, not as much as 100, 150 yet, but then volume will make that up. Appraisal, don't forget the pictures. All right, conclusion. You can open it back up here. And let's take any last questions. I know it's about we got about 20 minutes.
Sure.
18 minutes.
We actually had a lot of questions come through. And again, you're able to unmute yourself if you want to answer them direct or ask.
Yeah, you can talk in
directly.
person. Yeah. I know it's a lot. And remember, folks, what's important here is this is just the first phase. It's gutter rebuilds. The next 2 sessions are going to be on different types of gut rebuilds. there's there's like 4 to me different types of gut rebuilds. And we're going to show you, and we're going to get to one that actually has everything, the foundation, the joist, everything, basically everything. But guess what? That house, we're going to actually double the value, and we'll show you why and how. So don't, get overwhelmed. This is just one. We wanted to show you the simplest gut rebuild. This is actually the simplest gut and rebuild, but we're actually going to be able to show you different ones. But so some of your questions, don't worry that, we're going to get into more complex and more of the guts of the gut and rebuild in the upcoming 2 sessions.
All right. A few people had questions on inspection. What kind of inspection should you order to get through the analysis of true plumbing and septic status?
If you're going to be in the plumbing, you can have your plumber come out for the initial inspection of without a septic tank. Now, if you're going to have a septic tank, you just have a septic tank company come out, inspect your tank, and basically check everything out to make sure that it's working correctly.
Right. What kind of inspection should you order to get? I'm sorry. Do you have home inspections or termite reports done if you suspect unseen damage?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's a good question. Whenever we see, that's the first thing we see. Even this house, we don't know. They're right now as we speak. They're inside gutting. By the time, and then a couple of days, 2 to 3 days, the inside of this house that you saw in the picture I showed you, like any gut and rebuild, the ceiling, it's going to be nothing but studs, like you saw in a lot of the pictures. If we see termite damage, we not only have a tree, but sometimes if it's extensive, like one of the houses that we saw that it was actually 4 houses ago that Paul did, we actually, if it's extensive, the roof had a lot and the subroof had a lot of termite. We actually, at that point, you get a tent. The best way to treat termite issues is to tent the entire house. And for me, that's $700. Remember, some people are trying to look for, they're thieves in our business, folks. Half the suppliers and subs, they're thieves. It's sort of like they know, it's like somebody doesn't know much about cars going to the car mechanic and they tell you everything's wrong with it. The same, especially in this business. So you look around. So most people were costing a tent to be $2,000. We got one at $700, but that's a good $700 because, by the way, I'm selling that house as we speak, and that's adding value to the house. So termite's very important, very, very critical.
Question about your programs. Is participation in rent-to-own programs a requirement for renters? In other words, what if the prospective renter does not want to own at this time?
No, I don't. By the way, I don't do any more rent to own. I'm going to tell you why we don't do rent to own, and we can't do it because rent to own, when you do that, it's treated as a foreclosure. And I'm telling you, I had one go south, and it took me 2.5 years to get the house back, and it was so badly damaged, I had to demolish it. So no, I don't do rent to own, and I don't suggest it either. But I tell you what I have done. What I'm going to do, what I do with the families, like this family, what I do is they'll rent. And when they tell me first off, they tell me they want to own, I send them to a financial literacy organization like Dina and others. They then prepare, remember, they got to prepare them to be credit worthy. But then once they're credit worthy, I tell them I will work with them to find a foreclosed home and rebuild it so they can buy it. But so I never sell my rentals because any lease, no, I highly suggest don't get into lease own. That's a monster. Illegal and lawyer. Anybody who knows me, I'm not a fan of. If there are any lawyers in the session, I'm sorry, but I'm not a fan. All right. So,
about purchase locations, should we stay away from homes in a flood zone?
Good question. No, actually, we know what's so funny is that flood zones usually are sometimes some of the more attractive. Remember, if you haven't figured it out between the 2 last sessions, I love water. Why do I love water? Value, value, value. But there is the thing with the flood zone, but there's a way to get around it. Like I showed you, what we did was we ended up splitting that off right into two, that one. Actually, the rental, we just finished that a few months ago, and we split that off into two stages. There's a way around the HUD requirement, which I think is absolutely stupid, because what they're really trying to do is force you to demolish it, build a new construction home, but then I would have had to build a $600,000 home because of the cost in that area, and all of a sudden, and I wanted actually for that area, I'm dedicated military, so no, so don't stay from flood zones. Just learn how to get around the bullshit.
Let's go into money. How much has costs increased over the last couple of years due to COVID inflation for labor, materials? Do you think that spending on infrastructure will further increase labor costs?
Oh, yes, 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 and yes, and you keep it up, and I'll just keep on saying yes. But remember, we're in a business. I don't care if you're a nonprofit, it's a business. We can cry and moan. You got to figure out solutions. That's why, by the way, that's why, and you're right. Our window costs have increased, but how much you think? 40%, 30%?
Easy.
Easy.
Yeah.
Wood trusses, that's why we don't know, trusses almost doubled. And remember, you're gonna need trusses not only for new construction, but for expansion. Remember, if you're gonna do a gut rebuild, always use that to expand the house whenever possible. It's gonna add value, and you're gonna, the family's gonna, it's gonna be more suitable, it's gonna be more attractive to sell. But this is why the Robin Hood model is so important. I've been able to offset that with significant profits from the upscale selling that I then bleed and blend into my overall program. Remember, it's like making a cake. You got a lot of ingredients. So there's nothing we can do about the increased cost. And you're right. You're 100% right. Infrastructure is going to put a lot more stress on labor and supplies because it's all construction. But I can either sit around and cry about it or figure out a solution. I've already started to prepare for it. That's why I'm increasing. I told my banks that I'm going from and because of what you just said, that question, I went from mostly rental strategy to for sale strategy with about 50%, where Robinhood used to be maybe 10, 20%, 25% of my portfolio. It's now 50%. So I can offset costs because I still want to help families. So you remember the market. The market dictates. There's nothing we can do about the market. There's nothing you can do about that. But we can figure out a solution. And for me, the Robin Hood model and blending and remember, this is nowhere near my target area in Tampa. But look at what it did for my balance sheet. So remember, yes, but that's why, by the way, one of the things we're doing to offset those increases, we do more volume. You want to always have several homes in construction at one time, because again, that volume, remember, time and money, it actually starts to blend in, and it actually looks better at the end on your balance sheet and your P&L.
Right. We got two more questions. And again, I'm going to reiterate, if you want to answer the question directly, feel free to talk directly to Al. About economics again, to help the cost, do you apply for quality? Do you apply for or qualify for any local tax abandonment programs?
No, I guess this kind of may be I guess I'm a little bit of everything: Democrat, Republican, communist, libertarian. I got a little bit of everything in me, and I try to keep the government out of it as much as possible because I want to dictate the terms of our building. I determine where the profit goes and how it goes, and I determine where to build, how to build, and who to sell it to. Because sometimes, and even though the abandonment monies, there's some restrictions to it that sometimes will really interfere with our overall strategy.
All right, last question on construction. What determines the type of material used for framing, wood versus metal?
Hold on one second. Can you tell them we're going to have them stop the sawing for 1 second. just for, tell them, hey, give us 10 minutes. Sorry about that, folks. We're like, we got, somebody's like on the saw and it's a little bit too loud. So we're going to shut that off. And because we got about 8-9 more minutes of questions, 8 more minutes of questions. What was that again, Robin?
On construction, what determines the type of material used for framing, wood versus metal framing?
Really, it's a couple of things. It's going to be, and I'll wait, I'll answer how my approach, my thoughts, but then when Sergio comes back, I'll ask him to answer that in a little bit more detail. It's going to be it's going to be actually cost. It's going to be code. Actually, let me put it in kind of scale of importance, code and cost, but also I like wood framing. I do nothing but wood. I don't do metal framing. We do all wood framing because the cost and effectiveness of the wood framing. They had asked what determines whether we use wood framing or metal framing.
Well, metal framing is more required on a commercial building. You don't have to use metal framing in a residential situation. Metal framing is usually a little more expensive because to get metal is up. So you're better on lumber with that.
So thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm off to Puerto Rico tomorrow. Some great housing down there, as well as the great ocean tomorrow morning. So for those of you in the cold, I'm sorry I had to rub it in, but it is what it is. So have a great day. God bless you. And we'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.